If you were starting over today and you want to make $1 million, how would you do it?
Well, you got to remember that trying to make $1 million from the existing economy is incredibly hard because the whole economy is not built for that. The way to make $1 million is to bring something into the economy to create something, to be creative force, to do something, to be the organizing force for something new that didn't exist. The two things that I would do is I would work really hard to get the data to validate a good idea. And then I would go to investors and I would say, we're going to launch this idea and it's going to be initial seed investment. We're going to raise $500,000 at a 2.5 million valuation. And I would show them the financial forecast. I'd show them the initial data, the waiting lists, the data that we've collected, and all of that sort of stuff. I might go and pitch to 10 investors who each put in 50 grand, or 20 investors who put in 25 grand, or 50 investors who each put in 10. But I'm going to try and raise that $500,000 at a maybe 2.5 million valuation. And as soon as that round is done, I'm a millionaire, aren't I? Right? So I'm now worth $1 million on paper. So provided I can go in with that, now what I can do with that $500,000 is I can hire a couple of really good people. We can execute on the plan. We can grow the thing forward. Next thing we can do is raise 1.5 million at a 10 million valuation. I can take a little bit off the table, perhaps.
There are a lot of people out there that don't have those connections. They're not in those circles.
Can I be brutal? You've got to stop thinking about the worst case scenarios. Like everyone, like if you're always thinking about, but what about the person who's got they don't have shoes and they live in a puddle and they eat worms. It's like you can always make the case that there's someone who just can't do it. Okay, fine, they can't do it, right? The people who are listening to this podcast, they're going to be sick of, they're going to sit there and say, but I'm not in a puddle. I don't eat worms. I can do this. Like your people, your listeners are people who are ambitious. They're pumped. They're ready for it. They're up for it. They're smart. If they're listening to this podcast, they're smart people. We don't necessarily have to take care of everyone. Everyone's got to run their own race. Unfortunately, some people are just not going to make it. I hate to say it, that's just the truth. So it's not my problem to fix every single person's thing. Here's what, for me personally, I talk to people who want to be entrepreneurs. I talk to people who are entrepreneurs. I talk to people who are already trying stuff. They're reading books. They're listening to podcasts. I wouldn't be talking to someone in Chicago who lives in a puddle and eats worms and has no shoes. That's not my guy. That's not my person. I talk to people, I'm on this podcast because you attract listeners who 8% of them have more than 10 million, right? So if you constantly doing this, and the reason I'm being a pain in the ass about this is I see this all the time and it's oh, but what about this person? What about that person? I don't know, right? I can't solve for every single person. Here's what I do know. If you get a critical mass of successful entrepreneurs, they're going to lift the whole economy up. All right. So let's say that person is going to be better off because an entrepreneur who's in their city is growing, and that entrepreneur hires a team, and that team eat at a cafe, and that cafe needs a worker, right? And suddenly the economy's moving. The economy's stuff's happening. I talk to the engine room of the economy. The engine room of the economy creates second order and third order consequences that lifts everybody else up. Am I saying that everybody can be in the engine room? No, not everyone can be in the engine room. Everyone can benefit from the engine room firing on all cylinders. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'm curious though.
Am I going to get hate?
No, the reason why I ask questions like this is not necessarily because I agree or I disagree with kind of what I'm inferring by the question. It's just because I feel like a lot of people that are watching are probably wondering that. And so to those that may have an adverse reaction to what you just said, do you have anything to say to them, or do you think that it's kind of just...
It is what it is.
Congratulations for listening to the podcast. That's what I'd say. You're on a path. Get a job. Right? You're not going to be an A player from day one. You're not going to be a black belt. You don't walk into a martial arts school and become a black belt on day one. You go and learn from black belts. In fact, you don't even learn from black belts. The black belt teaches the advanced class. The green belt teaches the white belt class. So if you know that you're starting out from scratch, it's just unrealistic that you're just going to be able to come in and say, oh, I listened to one podcast with Daniel and now I want to be a millionaire. No, you're going to get a job first and you're going to work for a small dynamic team. My advice for anyone who's in that situation is work for a company that has less than 10 people, because then you're going to learn what goes on. I learned so much working at McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's for a few years, and as a 15-year-old, I'm running a $2 million a year restaurant, and like the store manager was 22 years old, and like a bunch of 15, 16-year-olds, we're just like cranking out, 40,000, or it must have been more than 2 million, but we're cranking out like thousands of dollars in lunchtime rushes, and we're making food and selling food and doing all this. We're following systems and procedures, and we're seeing how money gets shared. Like, I was there to learn. I went to McDonald's to learn how McDonald's runs, and I did 3 years just learning everything I could about McDonald's. I can still tell you all sorts of things about it. 54 nuggets in a bag. I can tell you how hot the toasters are. This is from 25 years ago. The training was that good.
Why does it seem like I don't see like 16-year-olds working at McDonald's anymore? Like, everyone that I see is like 30, 40 years old.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know here. I haven't been into McDonald's for a long time. I know that Starbucks spends more money training their staff than on their coffee. So like, go work at a Starbucks, but even better, go work for an entrepreneur. Go work in a small business that has less than 10 people, so you can learn the ropes. We can spend a lot of time talking about how hard it is at the bottom. The thing that raises the bottom is the engine room. We need an engine room. So if you're ready to be part of the engine room, that's going to lift everyone up anyway. Also, I hate to be an absolute arse about this. I have a really good friend who's a quadruple amputee, and he lost both arms and both legs on one day. And woke up at age 19 as a quadruple amputee, being a super healthy, fit, amazing, like 19-year-old. And then the next day he's got no arms and legs. And he has gone on to get married to a beautiful woman, have kids. He started a rehabilitation clinic for amputees. He's one of the best in the world. People fly from all over the world to go to his clinics. It's more than 7 figures of revenue. He's a best-selling author. He's an international public speaker. He is a absolute killer. And every excuse that you can come up with, like, he just didn't accept it. He's just like, okay. And he's not from a wealthy family. Like, he's not from some family that just said, oh, we're going to pay for everything. He just was sitting there. He was sitting there on the couch watching endless television shows about a few weeks after he got home from hospital. And he said, this is not going to be a good life. Like, I have to make a decision. Like, he realized no one's actually going to come and save me. No one's going to come and figure this out for me. If I don't do this, this is on me. And he had this vision where he said, it's either the worst thing that's ever happened to me or the best thing that has ever happened to me. And he's cheeky because he says, I would have been working in a corporate accounting firm like my brothers. His brothers work in like the big corporate accounting firms. He's like, now I live the best life ever. He's like, if I had to choose to get my limbs back, but then go and work in that accounting firm, he's like, I think I would keep the amputee.